and welcome to our newest edition of Creative Conversations. My name is Xenia, and this is the corner of my Substack podcast, Garden of the Imaginal, where we talk to inspiring creatives from all different fields and walks of life at the intersection of magic, mysticism, and creativity. Today's episode is something I'm so excited to present to you. It's with my friend, Nicole Adriana Casanova. Nicole is one of my Reiki teachers. Nicole taught me all about working with sacred herbs as cleansing smoke. And you just really have to hear the way Nicole expresses her ideas, thoughts, wisdom, medicine to really understand what a deep and profound teacher she is and how it is balanced by this amazing sense of humor, the storytelling and levity. Nicole is just such a beautiful force to be in sharing presence with. And in this convo, we talk about rematriation. We talk about her experience as a very small child, being attuned to nature, being asked to lay hands on people, the way she accidentally learned that she had the capacity to help other people heal through her yoga training. We talk about her experience learning from Indigenous elders. This is an episode not to be missed if you are someone who's living in and around New York City and really wants to get involved with learning from Indigenous cultures. We talk about prophetic dreams, moments when we dream of people we haven't even met yet. We talk about seeds as prayer. And we talk about how we can all contribute to honoring more traditional Indigenous worldviews. So this interview has so much for us to connect to and learn from. And if you're listening, I also want to invite you to something really exciting we have coming up at Myths of Creation. It's kind of one of our biggest creations of the year, and it's called Time Study. It is a 6-week exploration into nonlinear time. And the teachers that we have called for this experience are some of my favorite human beings to learn from. This experience is for people who relate to time in a nonlinear way already, who are ready to be activated and expanded in their perception of time, to work with it as a collaborator and to experience it just in a whole new paradigm. We have Manu River Del Pret teaching about time and timelines. We're going to be talking to Angela Angel, known as Other Ways of Seeing online, who's doing a channeled transmission about time. We'll be learning from Keoni Hanalei, who talks about ancient Mu Hawaiian culture. That's where his wisdom streams from. And then Georgia Jean, who channels a collective called the Circle of Light. And if you want to learn about that offering, you can look in the links below, and everything, all the curriculum will be there for you. But without further ado, I would love for you to tune into this conversation with Nicole. If you can be somewhere where you are connected to the earth, even if it's just looking out the window or sipping an herbal tea, I would highly recommend it. I hope you enjoy, and please let us know how you feel, any reflections or responses in the comments. We love hearing from you. Okay, enjoy. Take care, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Creative Conversation series, where I chat with people that really inspire me and move me, and whose creativity just manifests in so many different ways that I'm so grateful to learn from. And today we have our guest, Nicole Adriana Casanova. Nicole is a friend, someone I have learned from, someone whose visions and missions I've had the opportunity to support, and just somebody who really exemplifies this beautiful faith in their path and respect for the earth. And I'm so, so excited to bring this conversation to you. And thank you so much for being here, Nicole.
Thank you so much for having me, Xenia. And I I'm so thankful for the things that you said, and I can really echo them back to you. And I have just been in awe of the way that you hold your community, you care for those people who are living their purpose, and the way that you support us all and give us space and show up. So thank you, because it's been a really deep teaching for me to receive.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Yeah, we've known each other a long time now. So much has happened in the time we've known each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just beautiful to have you here. And for our community that's just getting to know you, when I think of you, there's so many things I think of. I think about your creativity, I think about your writing, the retreats you hold, and the healing containers that I have been blessed to be part of. But before all of this kind of big spiritual work, this mission driven work, how did you grow up? What were you doing before you started this path, or have you been on it for a really long time?
I was never not on my path, I was just being a human or trying my best. I think we're all trying our best. And I definitely tried to get off of my path in my teenage years to some extent, but that was very short-lived in the sense that the calling was there and the real engagement that I needed always came when I was alone, when I was in nature, when it was deep into the night and I could feel and sense connection and relationship that I wanted to be embraced by and embrace. And so yeah, I mean, childhood, I just spent my time talking to my ancestors and to every animal and plant that you could imagine. I was born in Borinquen and then I moved to Florida, and Florida is just so beautiful in terms of the nature. And so I had a lot of friends there, like all kinds of snakes and lizards and birds and all manner of very beautiful flora and fauna. And I really leaned into that. That was very real for me. Friendships always felt natural. And I definitely have a really close-knit group of people that I'm still in touch with. But I was always really drawn to the conversation that was happening between my spirit and the natural world. And I think that's where I drew a lot of calm and peace and understanding from. So it's not that different. I tried to party it out just like the rest of us. I've lived, but even through that, it was very apparent to myself and to those who I spent a lot of time with that I was looking for something a lot higher and a lot deeper. And it would always circle back. And at a certain moment, I just had to let go of whatever thing that I was trying to distract myself with and like really embrace who I am and what I am and what I'm here to accomplish and fulfill. And really working on that. Thanks for your questions. Good one.
Yeah, well, as you were growing up, that relationship you had with your spirit and nature, was it supported by the environment you were in? Like, did you have friends who shared it with you? Or especially when you were a little child, did it feel private? Like, how was the environment in relationship with your spiritual experience?
I'd say that every child has that connection to their environment, and it's very innate and it is very personal. And at the same time, it's universal because I think that when we come into this round, all of our senses are still awakened and they slowly get deprogrammed. They don't start off like being asleep or like being shut off or the volume's turned all the way down. And so I really do believe that's a kind of universal experience. And if you have the blessing to live in a really natural environment, like I did in swampy Florida, then it comes naturally, right? And at the same time, In my friend group, I was like the youngest of older children that were doing older children things, and some of them weren't really right for me. And so I found not that it's better company, but just different company and company that made a lot more sense to me as a
Mm,
being alone outside in nature and playing with the spirits of the trees and flowers and the animals. So I just felt more at home.
mm. Yeah, I feel like that's so beautiful to talk about that relationship children have with their sensitivity and how that becomes this bridge for their connection to everything, and how we can think about this connection to nature as something really almost surreal or magical. And even in my question, I'm like hearing myself just make this assumption that that's something we need to develop, that that's like not already there. And I love that you lean into that, because I always say I was raised at the mall, which is partially true because I was born in the Philippines, but I lived in the same house in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And so I like to be reminded by other people about that magical experience of childhood that sometimes I forget to tap into. And so when you were, let's just say, in your early adulthood or maybe your teenage years, when did the relationship you had with healing and spirituality, was there a point in time when it became more structured, or that you made a decision to pursue it more earnestly or perhaps more publicly? What was the trajectory or journey of this very natural relationship you had with your spirit and nature to it becoming something that you do professionally in the world?
Well, like we touched upon, I kind of was always on that kind of healing path. And from a very young age, I was asked to lay hands on people and pray over them. And I was very attuned to certain things. And I received a lot of messages from my dream time and my ancestors. And I felt like very connected to certain presences and beings that were appearing in my dreams. And at the same time, I knew that I had a lot of things to reconcile within my own self. And I began practicing yoga pretty young, like in my teenage years, and I didn't know what I was doing. It's just like showing these shapes in my mind, and I did them, and just like Tai Chi and Qigong, and I began practicing meditation by accident when I was 5, and I was just like, all right, guys, I'm out, like do this thing. I'm really gonna take it for a spin. But I moved to New York City when I think it was 2005. It was like 80 years ago at this point. don't know. I don't know how time's working for you, but it's just getting very malleable for me. And also, like I met you on Earth 1, we're on Earth 2 now, or maybe Earth 2.5. I don't know, but and yeah, and I spent several years just really leaning into a sangha that I found in Lower Manhattan and learning with a guru, and also in therapy, and like really trying to reconcile some of the things that were happening for me internally and deprogram some beliefs that were very, very ingrained in my psyche. And I always had like such a weird experience with therapists or psychologists. Like it would work for a little while and then I would get flipped and then they would get really depressed and ask me for help. And I was like, I just need to step into what I'm here to do because this dynamic isn't working for me. It just keeps getting really weird. So, the indications were there. And I was always somebody that people would come to, and my ex-husband, who's a dear friend, he used to make fun of me and tell me that I have my fans because we worked at a coffee shop in the East Village together, also like 300 or 400 years ago. Um, and I had the people that would come and they would just stand in front of me and there was clearly a line and they would just tell me everything, you know. And so he's like, "Oh, your confessors are here, your fans are here." And so it just kind of like took me a moment to really step into that. And I understood in my own being that I wanted to reconcile some things within my own self. And then I didn't really have the intention even then. You know, in my Vedic astrology, I'm a Taurus ascendant, so sometimes it takes me a moment, you know what I mean? It just takes me a moment to like to step in. And when I do, I'm like, okay, I'm there, I'm doing it, we're going, we're moving forward. It's gonna get momentum. But through yoga practice and the experience of the Sangha and the teachings, I also decided to study, to train, to teach. I was just like, yoga is just so incredible technology I still use today and I teach today, and I'm very grateful for it. It's just unbelievable what that thing can do. It's just very mysterious. Towards the end of my teacher training, I kept having these experiences with my colleagues, and I would just like put a hand on somebody to comfort them, and they were like, "Whoa, what did you just do to me?" And I was like, "Oh my God, what is going on? Shut off, turn off," you know? And so I realized then that was pretty serious because it wasn't being done intentionally. And at the same time, with my limited understanding of karma, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't unconsciously, unintentionally going to hurt someone or have an effect that wouldn't be good for them or myself. And people kept asking me, "Are you giving me Reiki?" And I'm like, "No, I don't even know what that is." This is back when nobody knew what Reiki was. And so I was like, "I really don't know what that is." But then people kept mentioning it to me. And so I went home and I was meditating and I prayed and I just really clearly said to the spirit, I was like, "If you would like for me to study this and it's going to be helpful for my path and for other people, I am open. Bring me a teacher." And about a week later, one appeared at the yoga studio that I was working at and that I was learning at. And so I took his workshop and then he became my Reiki master. And I studied with him for several years and received all of my initiations with him into Reiki, and also studied a different form of energy healing, which is based in Celtic shamanism. And that for me was like a huge homecoming. And pretty much right after that, like right after my first and second degree Reiki attunements, I began to see people by donation out of my home in Brooklyn. And I had a little treatment room and a beautiful garden that grew in very mysterious ways. And it was just like, it was perfect for what I needed for that time in my life. And then it was just by word of mouth, I kept getting busier and busier and busier and busier. And so I just kind of really grabbed that and I kept moving. And honestly, I sometimes look back at that time and like I had my little gong and my singing bowl and I was doing all the things that I do now, and I was remembering these things, and you know, just like nobody taught me those things and I didn't go to a workshop for that. It was just inside of my being, like slowly coming out as receiving these Reiki attunements are so powerful, and your antenna just gets open, you know, and all of these memories start to come in and you just suddenly can access something that maybe wasn't there before. And so I think this was very much like what happened with that practice. And then I just kept moving forward with it and understanding that is definitely part of my work here. And I'm so grateful to have really wise, grounded, experienced elders who have guided me, because even with all of the training that I had in Reiki and in Celtic shamanism, it wasn't really until I started working with elders and learning from them and being of service to them that I felt a lot more grounded in what I was actually doing, and that I could actually put into context some of the experiences that I was having on the inner planes through meditation and prayer, and also some of the mystical experiences that my clients were also having and letting me know about.
Wow, that's so interesting because I feel like I meet a lot of people who talk to me about having this fear of letting other people know about their spiritual world, or having this kind of really specific plot point where they come out in some way from behind some veil or curtain from behind which they're practicing. But it's really beautiful how in this trajectory there's just this organic flow and natural way that the universe is just dancing with you and you're always practicing. And yeah, like you said in the beginning, it's just the path has always been unfolding. And the question I wanted to ask you before, which you kind of already answered, was about your work with Indigenous elders, because I know that you are very involved with the Golden Drum, that you have brought so many different elders to my awareness through the work you do. How did that unfold, or what brought you into that world of working with Indigenous elders or with Indigenous culture?
Well, it was somebody that I was dating, like if we want to be brass tacks and factual about it, which I actually really appreciate doing. And I remember going by the Golden Drum. I had just done a workshop at Maha Rose, and they were having a sidewalk sale, and I was leaving my workshop with all of my flowers and things in my bag, and they were like, "Come in, come in." The Golden Drum is like an extremely beautiful community and powerful community that really cares about neighborhoods and families and children and teenagers and adults and couples and relationship and cities and nations and the environment and tradition, and has just been doing this work. The Golden Drum just had their 15th anniversary, and the Golden Drum with the guidance and the vision of Maestro Manuel Rufino, because that was his vision. And then the community came together in like collective visioning, and then the Golden Drum was born as a space, and it was very also mystical the way that happened. I went to Dream Seed, which I have had the pleasure of playing with Dream Seed and being part of that music sound healing collective and traveling the world with them, and hopefully we'll be doing more of that again soon. But I went to one Dream Seed, and then a couple of days later, I moved to California. And I had the wildest dreams when I was in California. And there was just one night where I had a series of four dreams that were all like very prophetic and revelatory. And my dear friend, Brooke, who we are starting like a multi-year healer's apprenticeship and healing school together in the spring. She came into my dream, and behind her was Maestro Manuel Rufino, whom I hadn't met yet. And I woke up, and there were like 50 or 60 crows cawing, like echo before the sunrise in Los Angeles. And I was sleeping on my ex-husband's couch. And he's like, "Could you like calm down maybe? Because this has never happened before." And it's really loud and super intense. And I was like, "Okay, okay." And so I woke up, did all of my practices. I put myself in a cold bathtub, like nothing got me back into this dimension. And so I decided to get some food at Peace Food Cafe in Venice Beach. And I walked in. I did it to go order because I was so out of sorts by what I received in those dreams. And I was like, I don't really want to be around people right now. And plus, I'm quite antisocial. And so I walked in, and my order wasn't ready. And I went to the bathroom. And as I was walking to the bathroom, sitting in the corner at a table, having a really deep, intense conversation, was one of the members of Dream Seed, who is a really dear best friend of mine, really dear sister. And I didn't say anything because I was like this, and I just booked my ticket to come back to New York that day, and I left the next day and really just jumped in. It took me really about a year and a half to jump into the Golden Drum community because there's so much going on and it's so profound. And I wanted to be respectful with myself and with what was really happening there, and like the way that nations were being united and traditions were being cared for. And I had to go slowly into that. And I think that's probably a pretty natural way to approach something that you feel is very sacred and very deep.
Wow. I love the story of the dream that you had. It's so beautiful. As you were talking, I was reminded that I had a Reiki attunement with you and how I started feeling really sick on the way back from a wedding. And you had said to me, there's always one person who tries to get out of it right before attunement. This is really normal. Just come. And it's true. As soon as I arrived at your place, all of the nausea and the headache that I had been feeling totally went away. And I just had such a magical experience. So it's just really beautiful to hear where that originated in your story. And also, I also had a very strange synchronicity happen to me. I think at that same cafe, the only time I've ever been in Venice. So I'm just tickled by the way that life weaves these little threads. I had run into somebody who I only met twice before at intention setting sort of moon circle, and her intention was that she would one day move to LA. And I ran into her in Venice, though we had met in New York. So I just love your stories, and I love the way you tell stories, and I love the way you live in stories. It's just so beautiful to listen to you.
So that's like a little reminder that you also had like a kind of like mystical meeting at that Reiki attunement.
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that.
Crazy. It was crazy, right? It was a little bit.
Yes, it was a little crazy. It's worth mentioning that I was in the Reiki attunement. We had an intimate group. Maybe there were 5 or 6 of us, and we went through the process of the attunement. And as soon as it was complete, I realized that the person to my left or to my right was a neighbor that I had met in middle school and hadn't seen since then. And I remember right after the attunement, I said to her, "Are you from Pennsylvania?" And she thought I like developed magical powers in attunement and could just tell where she was from. I was like, "No, I know you." Oh my gosh. Yeah, I totally can't believe I forgot about that. Thank you for mentioning that. Oh, it's so fun. I just for those who aren't familiar maybe with the Golden Drum here in New York, I just want to take a second to call out the community and organization because I meet so many people who, especially in the city, say that they want to work with Indigenous elders or learn from Indigenous people. And it's spoken about in a way as if it doesn't exist and there are no resources, especially in the city. And I hear this a lot. And I just think that the powerful work being done there and the community that surrounds that work, all of you and what you create, it's such an accessible and welcoming space to learn from people in person and also online. But if you're in New York, in person. So I just want to make sure that if you are interested in that and you're listening, we will link in the show notes below. But it is a resource and more than a resource. That doesn't feel like the right word. It is a sacred presence in the city that is there for you to connect when you're ready, as Nicole shared in your story. So I want to switch gears and talk about another part of the work you do, which I had the pleasure of supporting over the spring and summer, which is the organization that you founded, Root to Heaven. And I know Root to Heaven's original mission was to plant 1 million native species plants. Is that correct? Can you talk a little bit about how Root to Heaven came into existence, maybe how it connects to the healing or spiritual work that we were just talking about, and yeah, that part of your work.
Yeah, thank you. Root to Heaven just turned 5. Happy birthday, Root to Heaven. Anyway, Root to Heaven really did come out of the work of Golden Drum and the prayers and the support and the altar of Maestro Manuel Rufino. And I received that vision in very deep meditation on the mountain. And I kept it very close to my heart for several years before bringing it to life. And it is its own thing. People are always like, what are you going to do with Route to Heaven? And I'm like, I'm just waiting for the instructions because it is guiding me. I am definitely not guiding it. And I deeply respect that and acknowledge that's the way that the energy flows with that. And it's so far been very good. Of course, that I've had a lot of guidance and support throughout the entire time that it's been founded. It was founded in this house, I think, pretty much. It's pretty amazing to be back here, so many years later, and like really with this new initiative, Pollinate NYC, and with Route to Heaven and our partners, we just were able to meet our goals and exceed them so quickly. And it's also very mysterious the way that we've been able to find our allies and the people that we want to plant with and pray with. And there are prayers, every seed is a prayer for life, and it's prayer for all of us to clean the water of this planet and to bring life and shade and nourishment to all of the families, not just the human families, but all of the families that are suffering from deforestation and environmental degradation, who have no real ability to do some of that work. They do a lot of work. The keystone species and the animals, they are the original stewards of the land. And if anything, we've learned from them. So Roots Heaven has three key initiatives: reforestation, regeneration, and rewilding. And we noticed that when we begin to regenerate an ecology, that the native species, native animal species begin to reintroduce themselves more profusely into the environment. And so it was always with that understanding of relationship, even from the moment that the vision came, that there were pieces of that vision. There were instructions, but there were pieces of that vision that were missing. And I understood very clearly, even then, that those were the pieces that other people and other beings were bringing. And I knew in myself that I wasn't interested in this strange colonial idea that we're going to save the world. Like, give me a break, please. I understood that there are things that we can do to help the beings, including the plant life, to reconstitute itself and regenerate itself. And definitely that we are going to be relying more on that than the other way around.
Yeah, it's such an interesting mind shift for a lot of people to think about in a deep way, how even in the ways we help, we can make a lot of assumptions about how that power dynamic works and what kind of control we're assuming in that process instead of thinking about things more relationally, or at least a little bit more clear-eyed about who depends on what here on earth in what ways. But I really am so happy I got to see you launch the Pollinate NYC, which is this initiative to reforest the city of New York, which has played such a big part in your life and mine too. And what I loved about that in your vision and in the way that that space was created was there were so many different facets of knowing that were brought together. It was the launch of the initiative was at the new school with I think I'm probably going to misname this, but it's the food justice and food studies department at the new school. So there were scientists there were activists, the Dream Seed was there offering a concert. Like there were representatives from the Akwesasne Freedom School, which is the only Indigenous language immersion school in the entire country, that came and spoke about their seed saving programs and their food programs. And we also got to sing with people together. And I just remember how getting to experience that form of education that's not just intellectual, but something we can feel and something that we can connect on, like just how much more deeply it invites us to be part of creative solutions. And I think it's really, yeah, beautiful how there's this ecology of relationship built into that vision. So I just want to thank you for letting me be a support in that for you and for the earth. And this kind of leads me to my next question.
Yeah, I just want to thank you back. Before you ask me another question, I just want to thank you back. And it takes a lot of hands and a lot of hearts. And it's incredible the way that you and this small group of people showed up to really to manifest that together. And Route to Heaven isn't about me. It is about life. And it is about nature and it is about community. And it takes a lot of people, like many hands make light work. And you were such a beautiful light worker of that birthing of Pollinate NYC. And thank you also for just acknowledging the programming. It's really normal, I think, to have uh, this way of addressing things. It's like we can't possibly address things with our minds all the time. And when we sing, when we pray, when we dance, when we create together, when we plan, we're also engaging the heart. And that whole program really came from inspiration from many years of being a co-producer of the Heart and Mind Festival, which is another vision that came through the Golden Drum and Maestro Manuel Rufino. So I really have to just say thank you and acknowledge where things come from. And hopefully they can just continue to go in a really good direction. But thank you, thank you, thank you. And hopefully that was just the beginning and we can actually plant some trees and plant some food together this spring and summer in New York City.
Thank you, Nicole. Yeah, thank you. Actually, this is a perfect dovetail into the question I had next, which I think is kind of a weird and funny question, if I'm being really honest, but I'm still going to ask. From within the teachings of the elders that you're working with, what are some of those seeds that you feel like are starting to spread into the wider community or are ready to spread, whether those are messages, ways of thinking, some of these things you've already shared in our conversation? What are you hearing a call to with the people that you're learning from and also the people you're in community with?
Well, it's really special to see some of the heart and mind festivals that we've had in the past. For example, Unity and Diversity from Me to We. Now I'm just like scrolling Instagram. I see, this is part of people's branding now. So there's a sea change and there was a seed planted. And I think that it's also a transition from the kind of patriarchal industrial machine that we've seen isn't really working. It's not really working out for us. A lot of reasons. Like, I'm not a particularly political person, but I am a very like practical and reasonable person. And like I can look at something and be like, oh, that's broken. Let's fix it. And I think the pendulum is swinging in the other direction. Hopefully, we can be really conscious about that too and make sure that it doesn't go too far this way and like keep it in the middle. And like, we're all awake, we're all shoulder to shoulder here. And so, I think those values that were there were destroying our water and polluting the air and damaging our forests and really having a very negative impact on the nuclear family and relationships. And so we're all like, okay, but can we talk about it? And so we see these more traditional values coming online because humanity is calling for something beyond what we've been experiencing. And it feels like we're taking a step forward, but in that step forward, we're also integrating these values and traditional ways of thinking that have withstood many thousands of years. When you think about the Industrial Revolution, I know I was joking around about time earlier, but we're like, what, 100 some years in.
Yeah.
And I just very much see it as we're waking up from this bad dream, and I'm not saying that, there's nothing of value in the patriarchy or patriarchal or the masculine. There's so much there that's super valuable that we absolutely need. And that is also part of a more traditional worldview and understanding, is that everything has its place, and respectfully, everything has its place. It is about integrating rather than denying and shutting things out and being exclusive. And that was like such a buzzword in the early 2000s, like exclusive, exclusive. But can we be included? Should we maybe include these other people too? And like the value system. And this is also something like it's a deprogramming. And this was very, I did this before I went to the Golden Drum, but it got stronger when I was there, just like opening my offerings for all people, even if they couldn't afford to pay for it. It's just like, why does it have to be exclusive? Money is not the only value in this world. And I refuse to continue perpetuating that because I don't believe in it. And obviously that we all have bills to pay, and we all have to like put gas in our car and pay for our Metro card or our Ubers or whatever it is that we decide to participate in, however that works out. But at the same time, not being so narrow-minded that we're losing touch with entire aspects of human dignity and what energy actually is.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It's really sinking in a way as you're saying that in a really personal way as a learning for me in this moment. So thank you. The topic that we wanted to really bring forward when you and I first talked about having this conversation is rematriation. And I feel like we've been touching on it and circling around it. So, for folks who don't know what rematriation is, how might you describe it?
Yeah, rematriation is a return to matriarchal value systems. And matriarchal value systems are life, and protecting life and perpetuating life. So it's very, very simple. And there's many ways to do that. And a rematriation can also be a reclaiming and recollecting of our own ancestral ways, of our innate, inherent connection to life, to plants, to soil, to elements, to everything around us. And again, it's the opposite of excluding. It's integrating. It's integrating and accepting and receiving and caring for and connecting and multiplying what is around us and what's put in our hands. And for me, that has been very much like root to heaven and the work with the earth and that level of reciprocity and understanding. All of the great masters, they say, got illuminated in the forests and beneath trees, and they had these super mystical experience. And I'm like over here like planting trees, like we need help, guys, so let me just plant this tree here and this tree here, and like maybe it'll help to get our consciousness excited and inspired and aware of itself, because it's already there and it's already perfect and it's already exactly where it needs to be. It's just removing all of those layers and veils and programs that don't allow us to be who we are. And rematriation for me also has been about my roots, which are truthful to me, having grown up in a very Catholic household. It's like, I love Jesus. I love Mary. I love Christmas. I love everything. You know, I love everything that brings people together in celebration of life, because the celebration is a reality. It's like acknowledging how freaking blessed and rich we are to be alive and be able to be in it and be here with each other. And then on the other side, like, I love everything that gathers us and doesn't push us away and punish us for not doing this, not doing that. And for me, that was a difficult part of the tradition that I grew up in. With me, especially as a person whose like best friend was a willow tree. And it's like, I was just like having a trans species friendship, and I don't even know how to tell people about it.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to hear you talk about roots in a very expansive way. And I really relate to that feeling of wanting to be able to have a lineage or a root system that isn't a monolith and something that is very dimensional. And
Yeah.
so I appreciate you saying that. And I guess as we're coming towards the end of our conversation, I just want to ask with the obvious way, I guess, is with your work with Root to Heaven, or for somebody who wants to learn more about rematriation as a process, or perhaps even rematriation as something to understand from a more energetic perspective, what are some ways that people can work with you or work with organizations that you're involved with to go more deeply into their own rematriation journey?
You know, rematriation is personal and it's universal. For me, it's been about reclaiming my Taino roots, coming from the Caribbean and Borinquen and the indigenous people there, and reclaiming language and studying with elders. And Maestro Manuel Rufino is Taino, and he's an elder, and he was my first Taino elder, you know, and so having that direct access to our elders is really important. And we're all coming from somewhere. We really are all indigenous to somewhere. And so knowing where that is for you and leaning into that. For me, it was language and stories, mythology, deities, song, dance, food, colors. And like really, as I've done that, and also in tandem working with the earth, which is really returning to the earth, the mother, la matria, the mother of all of us, because this body, when we're done with it, we're going to put it back on the earth and she's going to absorb it because it's hers. It belongs to her. She lent it to us. And so, you know, touching the earth is a really good way to rematriate yourself. You will receive a lot, especially if you do it with an open heart and with sincerity. You will start remembering all kinds of things, but looking into our own background, our own ancestry is very important. And it will also bring a lot of richness and texture. And then obviously, the Golden Drum is just a treasure trove in New York City and for the world. And we have programming all year long. Like I said, dear friend Brooke and I are going to be launching a healer school in March. And, you know, I think that healing is also part of rematriation. Also, like really reclaiming this aspect of ourselves. It's like deeply divine and feminine and caring and understands like how to care and nurture something and bring it. Doesn't matter for man, woman, if we're they, it doesn't matter. Like these are all archetypal energies and they're there. And so we're launching that healing school. There's programs there throughout the week, all month long, every month. And Root to Heaven is going to be doing a lot of work in New York City this spring, this summer. We are going to be planting trees, but most importantly, planting food and agroforestry in the city and making sure that neighborhoods are being fed because things are really tricky right now in terms of the economy and the food system. And so there's nothing better than being able to step outside of your house and be able to grab some food from the earth. And the earth is there in Manhattan, concrete jungle. And in terms of working with me, I have a retreat coming up in Guatemala with the Mayans Tujil people. It's going to be amazing. It's February 4th to the 12th. And honestly, the work that I've done with that tradition nation has been really profound for my life. And Nana Marina also is one of these people who's always encouraging everyone to look into your ancestry and to honor and follow your roots, because when we root really deeply, that's when we can fly.
Mm.
And so that would be an amazing opportunity for people that are like ready to do this work. And I've also been doing one-on-one coaching, 3 and 6 month containers. And I haven't really opened that for a while. And last spring, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I am opening this again. And it's just been so amazing to watch the transformations and to support people, 20 years deep into my path. And there is a difference. I can see it. It's really awesome. And working with the altar that I work with has just been so life-changing, and it's helping people in a really good way. So all of those ways, one-on-one, retreat, golden drum, root to heaven.
Yeah. Wow. All of that sounds so beautiful. We'll make sure to link everything where you can all easily find it if you're listening. I just want to ask Nicole, is there a website or a place where you recommend people following or connecting with you if they want to learn more?
Nicole, Adriana, Casanova.love. But honestly, I'm a lot more active on Instagram than I am on my website.
Okay, so we'll leave both of those below. And yeah, I just want to thank you, Nicole, for this conversation. I feel like I learned so much, and it's so deeply nourishing to hear your stories. And I really appreciate you and your time. So thank you, Nicole, for being here.
Thank you, Xenia. I appreciate you and your time, and I'm always so grateful and blessed to speak with you and spend any time with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this creative conversation. The music you are listening to is by Kristen Sontag of Sunday Diamond NYC. We will link that album in the show notes along with Nicole's upcoming training, her website, and Instagram. And if you are someone who really wants to connect with Indigenous wisdom, we'll also link to Golden Drum and Route to Heaven if you would like to contribute to or learn more about those initiatives and organizations. We'd love to see you for Time Study, our upcoming offering. I think it's going to be one of the most magical containers I've had the pleasure of facilitating. So if you're interested in that, that link will also be below. And thank you for being here, gardeners of the imaginal. May your imaginations blossom and be nourished today and all days. See you next time. Take care.